Today, brothers, we're ranking every single artifact in Neural the Turnum. From god tier monsters that'll make you an unkillable god, all the way down to the trash tier disasters that belong in your nightmares. Some of these will straight up win you fights before they even start. Others will send you on a one-way ticket to the respawn screen. I'll show you exactly which ones to grab, which ones to avoid like the plague, and why running the wrong artifact is like trying to duel with a rusty butter knife. Consider this your ultimate guide for the rest of 2025. Let's jump in. Let's talk about my favorite artifact in the entire game to start things off. Crescent Wave, definitely an S tier beast in my opinion. For PvP, A tier for PvE. Let me break down exactly why. This thing comes with two amazing perks, Thwarting Strikes and Sundering Stacks. Who doesn't love free damage? I know I do. That's why I always invest all my points into pure strength. So I hit like a freight train. The artifact's bonus, 12% base damage to targets further than 10 meters away. Not bad, but kind of useless. The main reason we run this bad boy is the wave itself. While you're about 50% HP, you shoot a projectile forward, dealing 165 weapon damage. However, your heavy attacks are reduced by 80% and the waves cost 20 mana. This thing is a Demon King in disguise, as it right now outperforms any other greatsword artifact included in terms of raw DPS in PvP. You can easily get past that mana goblin by just chugging on mana potions and serums, basically giving you 100% uptime on the wave. Also beautiful for closing out kills on those pesky rats. You get this in the season pass, have to be level 20. Highly recommend picking this bad boy up if you're a great sword enjoyer. Next up, let's move on to the next artifact, the Pestilence. Grab your shotgun, boys, because it's time to go duck hunting. The Pestilence. This, A+ tier for PvP, F tier for PvE. Why? Let me break down. Pest, you deal 8% against poison or disease targets. Solid for PvP, but the main reason you run this disgusting bad boy is the amount of disease this thing comes with. It's like if a man hasn't taken a shower for many years. Basically, if Asmongold was a weapon, nobody wants to go near him. Keen, 7.3% crit chance, nice. What do you put on this bad boy? Gem slot for that beautiful extra damage. Where do you grab it? On the PvP drag, have to be past level 29, it'll come up on this third checkpoint. Pray to RNG Jesus that you finally get lucky for once in your life. Unlike me, I didn't get this bad boy into the mid-hundreds. Can I get some F's in the chat for my luck? Next up, we got Relentless. A shield has entered the fray. While in combat, all allies around you gain 35% armor and 20% increased healing for non-consumables and life sources. However, your armor is reduced by 25%. In PvE, basically worthless, as this makes you very squishy, allowing the bosses to send you into the afterlife. For PvP, also worthless, as you're the star of the show. Why would you want to help your teammates? What is this, charity? Get out of here. We're selfish gremlins. Just like you should be selfish and smash that like button and subscribe, as I'm always bringing you the best New World content around town. Where do you get this bad boy? Well, you gotta open up those mutated catches that you get from doing dungeons. So good luck, PvP boys. It's hammer time, boys. The life-stealing hammer, Tristan, is here, and it's here to give you one heck of a show. Think of this bad boy as if a vampire became a weapon. Passive, 25% lifesteal against knockdown foes or foes inflicted with stuns or root status effects. It also comes with two other life-stealing passives, 7% flat, and whenever you connect a heavy attack, you heal for a juicy 25%. I'd rate this thing B tier at best for both PvE and PvE. Main reason, there's just better artifacts for your weapons that give you way more damage, and Blood Drinker, in my opinion, is the best artifact in the entire game if you want to turn yourself into a blood-sucking goblin. So, where do you get this hammer? Well, in Hive of Gorgon. Good luck getting a raid together. I believe in you. Meet the Infernal. The fire staff that will send your enemies to the bottom of the abyss, because they'll burn them to cinder. This one allows you two options. strength, or intelligence, whatever your heart desires. I know it's hard to pick, but I believe in you. It also comes with a beautiful stalking perk. 15% damage when you hit a target within 15% meters. Also, Killing Power and Vicious, big, massive damage on the front lines here, nuking people into Narnia. What do you put on this? Attunement. Deals an extra 15% damage, allows you to get that extra bit of seasoning on that crispy steak you're about to create. Where do you grab it? Great Cleave. Forge. Has to be mutated. Keynote. If this thing is a strength enjoyer, A tier, intelligence, S tier. Let's move on to the next weapon, because there are some insanely broken weapons that could redefine the way you play. Let's keep going. Next up, Michael. I didn't know a human being could become a shield, yet here we are. The perk, pretty strong. Cooldowns, 5%. On block, you lose the debuff, massive for survivability. Major downside, it's a kite shield. What do you gotta do with that? Throw it in the dumpster out back and burn it to oblivion. For PvP, I give this a B tier. For PvE, D tier. Main reason, tower shields are just supreme over there. Where do you grab this bad boy? On the PvP track. It's forgettable, so let's move on to something much better that could make your day also a lot better. If you guys want peace and serenity, well, the serenity is for you. Passive, beyond broken. Offensive stance, 2% in power per attack, stacks up to 10 times. Same with defensive, making you an unkillable demon machine that sends people to therapy after you're done killing them. Mobs are gonna wish they haven't even been coded when you walk out with this monstrosity of a weapon. Comes with an illegal weapon perk combination. Strikes and crits with refreshing moves. Huge damage, huge CDR. What do you put on this bad boy? A gem slot. I'd rate this S tier for both PvE and PvP. Major issue here, you gotta get it from the PvP track, so go out there and start grinding until your eyes melt away. Hopefully, the next weapon's something much easier to grab. Next up, the wall. Gain 5% base damage reduction. You cannot dodge, and stamina regenerate is reduced by 10%, but you have 33% more stamina while active or sheathed. This thing is pretty solid all around. For PvP though, gotta give it a C to B tier rating, simply because not dodging in PvP, well, that's a death wish. But for PvE, it's much better. I'll give it a solid A tier, as having that extra stamina could mean the difference between life and death against certain bosses, but there still is better options out there. Where do you grab this bad boy? Open up your maps and head over to the wasteland called Brimstone Stands. You'll be in need mutated. Next up, Wit. If you got brains, well, you don't need this one to begin with, as this just allows your taunts to be more effective overall. If you're good at taunting, this artifact is completely worthless in both PvE and PvP. I'll give this a F to D tier in those modes respectively. Honestly, this one just shouldn't even be in the game. Completely worthless, but where do you get it? For all you hardcore masochists out there, get it from mutation caches. So go farm your M1s, M2s, and M3s, boys. Don't worry, I promise you the next weapon won't make you want to be your brains out. Alright, next up, boys, it's time to become a Rot Priest with the Hector. What does it do? Light Touch. Sus name. For 5 seconds after casting a Life Staff ability, the next heavy attack will pass through an ally. Will grant Reinforce, giving them 30% damage reduction for the next hit taken within 7 seconds. This massive for saving your useless teammates in PvE and PvP. A tier in both, respectively. Open up your map. Over to Restless Shores, and you have to farm this gremlin right here if you want to snag this life staff and become a true Rot Priest in action. Enough healing. It's time to melt some people. Oh, the finisher. The most broken artifact in the entire game for PvE. S+. For PvP, I'll give it a solid S. Reasons being, attacks against bleeding targets deal 15% more damage. Mwah. And reduce flourish and cooldown by 5%, 1 second global cooldown. This is nasty because it gives you not only 15% extra damage, comes with 2 illegal weapon perks, Then you'll put Disdain Infliction on this bad boy for PvE for maximum pain. Where do you grab this bad boy? Well, if you want to melt people, head over to Elysian Wild. You'll see 3 mammoths sitting here. You'll have to kill them. Don't worry. There'll be no survivors once the mother spawns and you take her out too. Otzi. Ice Gauntlet. Frozen Tomb. Hitting a target with Entune breaks and inflicts them with Frostburn, slowing their movement speed by 10% and dealing 10% of your weapon damage every 5 seconds. This thing is what I would call the worst weapon or artifact in the entire game. Completely useless in both modes, PvE and PvP. F tier across the board, but if you're a masochist and you want to go to the zoo, I'm not talking about the mall, come over here and kill Kriko the Ape. He will drop this bad boy if you truly want to put your life on hard mode. Don't worry, the next weapon I promise you will make you smile. Grace. This thing, basically just movement speed on steroids. As offensive stance, when you enter it, you gain 6 seconds of 15% movement speed. This, huge for mobility, but in terms of damage, worthless. I'll give this thing a solid C tier in PvP and PvE. F tier, as the only thing it does is give you extra movement speed and just worse across the board for the other 2 great swords. How to get Grace? Well, you gotta do the PvP track, so good luck with that. Next up, Scorpion Sting. It's time to yeet people across the battlefield into your own personal playground. Because this thing, whenever you throw a javelin, you yoink people towards you. It also deals more damage, 100%. Major downside though, the cooldown's increased to 20 seconds. Huge, as my ADHD brain cannot handle that. Also, it can only be reduced by conditional cooldown reduction. Comes with Sundering Javelin and Trenchant Strikes. Overall, very good in wars and in certain PvP scenarios. Overall, I'll give it a B tier for that category. For PvE, however, well, sadly, worthless. F tier. Where do you grab this monstrosity? Come over here to the Scorpion in Brimstone stance. It's time to seal a tail and make it into a weapon. Next up, another spear weapon, the Venom. This thing, beautiful. Heavy melee attacks on either weapon cause a poison, dealing 15% weapon damage for 15 seconds. Comes with Trenton crits and strikes. Then you can put a third perk on here. I chose Cyclone, but if you're a sweep enjoyer, that's good too. Overall, very good for both PvE and PvE. I'll give this a solid A tier across the board, as simply, if you can't get another artifact like Serenity, it was my backup option for many moons. Where do you grab this? Head over to Reekwater and it's time to do group content. As you gotta go to the arena, enter the Thunderdome, and send a boss sky high. Odo, next on the board, brothers. Well, it's good at punishing your foes, as you'll deal 20% more damage to stunned or knocked down foes. Massive synergy with the flail, as it has a true combo with Trip and Arcane Eruption, sending these men packing to the bottom of the abyss. That is not where I would want to go. For PvP, solid A tier weapon. For PvE though, give it a C, as you cannot knock down bosses, making this worthless in any boss fight. Maybe even an F tier for dungeons and raids. What are the other 2 perks that this bad boy comes with? Life-stealing Refreshing Move, 2 solid. On block, you heal for 5% base damage with a 3-second cooldown. Not bad, but not game-breaking. Where do you grab this monstrosity? That is a great weapon. Open up your maps, brothers. Head over to Elysian Wilds and right down here, there'll be a man named Vanish. Farm him, I believe it's a tiger, and send that man to the pound. Vengeance. If you want to get your vengeance for the people that have killed you, well, this life staff's for you. Comes with an outstanding artifact perk, Life Staff Support. Outgoing healing is increased by 25% when not affected by any Life Staff heal over time effects. One basic attack's path through allies, their stamina, mana, is increased by 20 to 30% respectively for 3 seconds. Absolutely broken, right? Until you read the other perks this thing comes with. Refreshing Move, very good, but it comes with Keen Beacon and Enchanted, 2 perks you just sadly don't want to see. Just like how you don't want to go to work on Monday. Where do you grab this thing? Well, the PvP track. What do I rate this thing? That's a toughie. Depends if you're a keen beat can enjoy it or not. Overall, I'll give this thing a double B tier across the board. One of the hardest artifacts to rate on the entire list, as the passive is broken, but the perks that comes along with it just ain't hitting. Just like you should be hitting that like button and subscribing. Brothers, welcome to the Goblin Horde. I always bring you the best content. Let's move on to the next weapon. Next up, boys, it's time to go to my homeland, Canada. Deep freeze every winter. Perk Chilling End. Frozen, rooted, or chilled enemies take 15% additional damage. Huge for both PvP and PvE, as proccing that frozen status effect is not relatively hard. Overall, I give this an S to an A tier. PvP, PvE. Where do you grab this bad boy? Open up your map and head over to Great Cleave. Right here in Glacial Tarn. Has to be mutated, and it's mutated right now, so lock it in, boys. Grab your shovels and pickaxes. It's time to go mining. For our next weapon, Sin. If you're a dirty sinner, this weapon is just for you. Debuffs last 20% longer on both weapons. It also comes with another very broken perk. Deal 2% extra damage per debuff on the target, max 5 stacks, making this thing have very high DPS. Comes with Keenly Jagged, refreshing move. Overall, very solid. I would give this weapon a A tier across the board, simply because debuffs last longer, both broken in PvE and PvP. Extra damage, who doesn't love free real estate? Major thing holding it back, there's just better options out there like Finisher and Serenity. Where do you grab Sin? Open up your map, boys. Head over to Brimstone Stands. Up on the north side. You have to climb the tower. Yes, I know hiking is hard. You may break a sweat, but you'll have a very good artifact. Highly recommend picking this bad boy up. The Abyss. My deep, dark fantasy weapon. Darkened Blade. 99% of the damage is converted into Void, and if intelligence, well, scales higher. A perk you cannot see here is Abyss. Deal 15% more damage when mana is below 100%. Turning this thing into a mean, lean killing machine. This allows for spicy builds like Great Axe Firestaff to become meta. I would give this thing a solid S tier in PvP. For PvE, I'll give it a B tier because it's just straight up better options out there. But if you like Great Axe, you want to run an int build, this weapon's for you. Where do you grab this bad boy? Oh, time to grab your sacks, sandals, and a cigar. Because we gotta go corrupted portal hunting. Gotta kill the major ones. You'll get these boxes afterwards. Open them up and pray to RNG Jesus that he loves you today. Azoth Conductors. Grab this one and Hive of Gorgons. If in medium equipment load, you'll deal 15% more elemental damage, making this a mage's greatest ally. For PvP, S tier. For PvE, give this an A tier. There's just better options out there, but if you're a medium zero con enjoyer, this one could be a very solid option for you, as it's just flat damage increase. If you love tanking, if you love being that meat shield on the front line, Vite Plague is for you. Enchanted Ward, physical aversion. But what does the artifact do? Dark Reinforced. Your armor is increased by 20%, making this hands down S+ tier for PvE and PvP if you're a heavy armor rat. If not, it's D tier. Only useful in heavy armor. Where do you grab this bad boy? Open up your map, brothers. Scroll down to Cutlass Keys. And in Barnacles, has to be mutated. Good luck. I believe in you, because I know my RNG is completely terrible. Next up, Tumbler Feet Wraps. Arguably the most broken artifact in the entire game. Let's find out why. Circling Blessings. Successfully dodging an attack gives you 15% empower, 25% fortify, and you get healed by 200 plus 2% of your max HP with a 1 second cooldown. This thing is beyond broken. I don't know what the devs were cooking up when they made this monstrosity of an artifact, but yet here we are. Completely best in slot for any medium build in the entire game for PvP. For PvE, not as good as you have to don, so D tier. PvP, S++ tier. You should run this on pretty much every build. If you can, there'll be a few exceptions to which artifacts will be better, depending on your playstyle or how you want to spice up your build. Won't always be best in slot, but it's a very safe option for a vast majority of builds if you don't know what artifact to run. Where do you grab this bad boy? Go do some OPRs. Within 5 caches, you'll have one of the best artifacts in the entire game for all you PvP gremlins out there. We got 2 artifacts. I'm going to lump them together because they basically do the exact same thing. We have Old Crown. This gives plus 11 to all attributes. And Attuned Leather Pants. Another plus 11 to all attributes in training. Overall, for PvP, I'll give these a double A tier, as one just gives more damage reduction and the other one gives a bit more CDR, depending on how you want to play it. In terms of PvE, S tier, S tier. Overall, I would say Attuned Leather Plants slightly edges it out, as refreshing in my opinion is more useful than damage reduction for those PvE rats out there. Where do you grab these? Old Crown, PvP track. Attuned Leather Pants, main story quest. Unmoved. You cannot be displaced, aka you've gained 500 pounds and now no one can bully you around. For PvP, C tier. PvE, F tier. Completely worthless in that game mode. Where do you grab this monstrosity of a disappointment? Well, from the PvP track. So don't worry, you don't have to farm this thing. It'll find itself into your inventory as one disappointment. Next up, we have Elemental Band. Once the king of jewelry artifacts, but then got nerfed into the oblivion of New World Eternum. I would still rate this thing though A tier across the board for both PvE and PvE. When you hit a target with elemental damage, attack does not trigger off dots, however, or augments, or attunements. You gain 4% in power for 6 seconds. Still good for split damage builds like Fire Ice, and putting 2 different gems in there, allowing you to hit 4 elements, like you're the last airbender. Where do you grab this bad boy? Hive of Gorgons, so time to find 9 other PvE sacrifices for you to run this bad boy. Next up, Koya Need Guards. Incoming range attacks deal 13% less trauma to you. Sounds really strong, right? In practice, not really. For some reason, it just doesn't feel good. This thing, I would put D tier for PvP and F tier for PvE. Completely avoid this thing like the plague, and if it's in your inventory, try and destroy it, but sadly you cannot. You grab this in an OPR crate, so it'll be forced into your inventory. Very depressing. Next up, Vampire Vestment. This one, it's got a paragraph. While below 95% HP, hitting a target will consume 10 mana. If you lose mana this way, the attack grants 17% lifesteal, basically turning into a vampire in real time. Using a magic weapon, only abilities trigger lifesteal, and basic attacks generate 10 mana. Translation, B tier, PvP, B tier, PvE. Main reason, Blood Drinker is in the game, and this thing is just better than Vampire Vestment. And once you got Blood Drinker, you don't need this monstrosity. But where do you grab it for all you Twilight enjoyers? Well, you grab it in some mutated caches, so get the farming, boys. Runic Greaves. Passive, your heart rune gains 23% extra movement speed for 6 seconds. F tier, F tier. Put this thing in your nearest shredder and get rid of it. Terrible. Comes from the PvP track. We don't want it. Lich Gloves. Curse. When you activate an ability, you gain a stack of empowerment 10% for 7 seconds. Max 3 stacks after you hit with a basic attack. Lose all stacks. Can't gain empower stacks for 3 seconds after stacks expired or are removed. Where would I put this? C tier for PvP. F tier for PvE. You get this from the PvP track. It's just not worth the hype. Plague Herald. Plague Spreader. Every 0.5 seconds ability, let attacks inflict a stack of disease, max 10 stacks. You are also inflicted with 1% disease. Translation, since that's a whole paragraph, you do a crap ton of disease to the enemy, and you also give yourself a nasty little debuff on the side. Overall, I would give this thing an S tier rating for PvP simply because this makes healers unplayable, basically making them a bystander in any fight. For PvE, however, D tier, as the only use this thing would ever have is if you hate a boss and you just don't want him to heal. Most of the time, mobs don't do that in New World. Where to grab Plague Herald? Well, open up your map. Head over to any race that is coming online. Here, you can grab your water bottle because it's time to run a marathon. Your team has to win. Open up the box that you grab and pray to God you get lucky. Justice. If you're tired of all those naughty boys running around New World Eternal and you want to become Batman, this is the earring for you. When you get hit 20 times, yes, masochists, gain a power surge that will recharge your next travel potion instantaneously. 90-second cooldown. This meaning Justice is completely terrible, as there's many better artifacts in the entire game. Give this thing a solid F tier for both PvP and PvE. Just way better options out there. Where do you grab this disappointment of a artifact? You grab this by winning another race, just like Plague Herald. Next up, we got Nimble Cloak, S+ tier for PvE Gremlins. For PvPers, I'll give this a solid A. This reduces your mat cooldowns by 8%. You grab this thing from the PvP track. Endless Thirst. This one, the most common used jewelry artifact in the entire game. Healing consumables are 33% stronger, but survival and mana potions are 25% longer. An even trade-off. Thanos would be happy. Empowering Toast and Fortifying Toast in a legal weapon perk combination, massive for overall enjoyment of the game. You would put Refreshing Toast on this nasty thing. I would give this thing an S tier in both situations, as in PvE, you should not be getting hit enough for that cooldown reduction to even matter. So the extra healing, very clutch. And for PvP, very good for excellent survivability, S tier. Where do you grab this? Open up your map. Go down to Elysian Wilds and slap down the Savage Divide mark. Has to be mutated though. Next we have Kal the Prowler. If you hit an enemy while your mana is below 50%, gain 4 seconds of 25% increased damage. This thing, honestly, D tier for both PvP and PvE, as uptime just not high enough to really make any use out of it. Honestly, you could even argue this is an F tier weapon. Sometimes I swear the New World devs have zero idea on how to make cool artifacts. The Kal of Disappointment can be found on the PvP track. Ankh. This thing beyond broken if you got a pocket healer. S++ to the max. But most of us, well, we don't have a healer in our back pocket. Therefore, for PvP, I'd rate this A. For PvE, D tier, mainly because, in theory, S+. Sadly though, you can't keep switching this thing for protection perks across the board. Therefore, I don't think it's worth running over getting a solid protection perk on your amulet. Very sad to see. You grab Ankh on the PvP track. Next up, we have Unyielding. F tier for PvE, as this only is for PvP. As you receive 20% less damage from critical hits, this helm also weighs 6% less. I would give this thing a solid B tier for PvP, making you solidly more tanky. And you grab this thing on the PvP track once again. Iron Heart. Oh, if you're a max HP enjoyer, this one's for you. For PvE, F tier, as has no real value there. But for PvP, I'll give this an S tier when paired with one specific build, the Ankh build, and you stack your points correctly, got best in slot, you spent 2 million gold on your build, I'll give this an S tier rating. Otherwise, solid B tier. Ain't worth running unless you got the best in slot version for this setup. How about for freedom? It's time to break free of our chains and shackles. That's why I play New World Eternal, so I can have 2 jobs, one in real life and one to farm in an MMO. Stuns, slows, roots, effect, or base variations are reduced by 20%. This is massive for overall survivability in PvP. For PvE, solid F tier, doesn't really have much value there, but for PvP, oh, we can start cooking like Gordon Ramsay with this bad boy. I would give freedom an A tier, and it comes from the PvP track. We've done a tune, onto magnetic gauntlets. If you guys want to finally get some chicks, this is the gauntlets for you, because you'll be literally magnetic. Crit chance increased by 50%, but crit damage is reduced by up to 30% damage. Generally, this was the Void Gauntlet artifact for many moons, but I personally have just enjoyed to love tumblers more than magnetic gauntlets. It has too big of a nerf for the upsides. In my opinion, it's a solid B tier artifact, fun to mess around with for PvP, but for PvE, I'll give it F tier, as it just ain't worth running, as most of the time you got free back shots all day, every day. You open up your map, head over to Shatter Mountain, and you grab this in Tempest Heart. Quick side note, if it's not paired with the Void Gauntlet, I would give this an F tier. Not worth running over anything else, really. I mentioned that was usable. Featherweight. Your armor becomes weightless. For PvP and PvE, this is actually very good, as this gives you the overall most tankiness out of any artifact in the entire game for light armor. This allows you to equip 2 heavy pieces, making you a hybrid between light and medium. You grab this in Elysian Wilds. You farm it on the top of this mountain right here. There'll be a bird. You gotta slaughter him a few times. In terms of value for PvP, S tier. Very good for defensive builds. Cannot beat it there. For PvE, a bit more debatable. I'll give it an A tier. And as for some light builds that are struggling, this is a solid option for you to take, but just won't give you the DPS that other builds would like to see. Alright, now it's time to switch gears, boys. I got an alt tab for the rest of these artifacts, so let's do that. How about Cre Boots? I love these things. S tier for PvP, but only on certain builds, as this thing turns you into a walking nuclear missiles, leaving nothing but pain, destruction, and arguably trauma behind when you're done with them. As this thing gives you 3 ways to deal damage. Crit damage 20%, and power 10%. You also weaken them by 10%, and you increase your crit chance by 10%. Massive for nuking your opponents into oblivion. For PvE, I'll give this a solid B tier. As for raids and dungeons, not worth running, but for clearing groups of mobs, insanely valuable, as it has a 0-second cooldown on each target, but the major downside is that same target can only be ambushed for 5 seconds, while the cooldown 15 seconds. Where do you grab Cre Boots? Open up your map, brothers. Head over to Ebonscale. It's time to go for a journey. In this camp, farm a bunch of mobs there. Hopefully, you get it. By the way, let me know down in the comments below how you be rating this tier list so far for both PvE and PvP on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how accurate I am, because I guarantee you I'm a 10 out of 10 for everyone. And if you disagree with me, well, I'll be deleting your comment. Digen Head Wrap. Shrug Off. Reduces the base duration of non-crowd controlling debuffs on you by 20. Turning you into a cleansing monster. You'll be taking showers every few minutes and be cleaner than Mr. Clean himself. Invigorating. 2 very good perks to pair with this bad boy. Comes from elite chests scattered around the map. Digen Head Wraps, S tier for PvP, F tier for PvE. The Ghoul Gloves. When you hit a foe that is below half health, you transfer 1 debuffs. I'm gonna keep it real, FF. This thing is just completely useless, just like me on my first date, never getting any action. Where do you grab this bad boy? If you really want to be a masochist, it's right here by the Overgrown Guardian. Wouldn't recommend it, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. Winged Leather Shoes. This thing, phenomenal for PvP, A tier. As base duration of haste on you is increased by 50%, and you'll deal 10% more increased base damage. Absolutely disgusting. You get the Winged Leather Shoes right here in Elysian Wild. Very good for PvP. Recommend picking them up for PvE. However, give them a solid B tier, as that base damage is still nice to have if you're running specific builds. Next up, it's time to become a wizard, Harry. Quick end casting. Well above 50% mana, magic weapons, range heavy attacks, charge 25% faster. Overall, just a B tier across the board. Just it's solid if you want to have some faster heavy attack gremlin action. Sadly though, I wouldn't recommend using this over the other DPS weapons. Drops from major breaches. I recommend farming Merc or any elite chest runs. You should be able to grab this pretty fast. Next, Quick Draw Gloves. You're immune to damage for 0.5 seconds after your weapon's off, 12 per second cooldown. For PvE, absolutely useless. For PvP, however, absolutely terrible as well. F tier across both categories. Get it from the Oompa Loompa here in Elysian Wild. I'll skip this one unless you want to have a rough time. Next up, the Butcher. This thing, huge bleeds. Bleeds last 25% longer. Whirling Blade inflicts another bleed. They are going to need some band-aids after we're done with them. Comes with Empowering, Whirling Blade, and Keenly Jagged. Overall, solid for PvP if you're an SNS abuser. I'd give it A tier. For PvE, however, I gotta lower that down to B to C as there's just way better options out there. And plus, SNS generally not a DPS type style weapon. Where do you grab this bad boy? In Ebon Scale's Mutated Dungeon. I actually forget the name of this. Don't hate me down in the comments below. I can forget things too. I am human. But you gotta kill the final boss. Good luck. Freya's Hatchet. Oh boy, this hatchet is something to behold. Throw act projectiles, reduce all axe cooldowns by 25%. Get rending throw, refreshing move, basically CDR through the roof. If you're a hatching thrower enjoyer, I would give this a solid A tier for both PvP and PvP. I could be a bit wrong on this one, as it could even slip into the S tier. I just have never ever touched this bad boy and I never see it, so this one's one of the hardest ones to rate, in my opinion. At least you'll have good arm strength after you're done using this. This drops from the Garden of Genesis in Ebon Scale, has to be mutated. 99% of your hammer damage is now converted into lightning. You also deal 20% more lightning damage overall, turning you into Thor the Thunder God. You also get Sparks. Mighty Havel causes a lightning strike, inflicting 30% weaken, refreshing gavel, and refreshing moves. This thing, A tier 100% for the PvPers. I would also put this in A tier for PvEers, as this thing does have some pretty high damage and allows you to play with some builds. There's still always better options out there, but if you like hammer, this is a solid option for you. Comes from Mutation Lazarus from the final boss. Next up, Bolt Caster. Oh boy, the Lightning Shredder. Same thing as Mjolnir. Turns you into a Thunder God, but this time, you're a Bow Rat. You also get Bolt, a new passive. Basic attacks build up a static charge lasting 3 seconds. Hitting the bow lightning damage attack at 3 stacks will consume the charge, triggering a bolt of lightning, dealing 80% of the damage. You also get Shirking Lightning. All lightning. Overall, A tier for both PvE and PvP for the same exact reasons I stated earlier for Mjolnir. You get this from this man right here on the map. Annoyed, something that sounds like I'm about to cast a spell. Next up, boys, it's time to become a mechanic. Your traps and sticky bombs, well, they're 20% faster now. Stonks are going up. Also comes with an illegal weapon perk combination. Traps with sticky bombs. The only major downside of this artifact, gives no extra damage, and traps are kind of bad in my opinion, but they give you a lot of mobility. Well, that can definitely come in clutch. Overall, I'll rate this a solid B tier across the board, and it's relatively fun to play with the movement speed and the extra healing you get from Sticky Bomb. It's just no extra damage, so if you're going for those top numbers, this is not the artifact for you. Get this from Toy Maker over here in Brimstone Stands, and you can just kill this rat over and over again. This guy is completely soloable. The Gladiator. Time to enter the arena, boys. When you're hit or blocked with a melee attack, you inflict a bleed on your attacker. This would be much better, by the way, if this was a tower shield, but sadly it's a round shield and you don't like blocking too much on a round shield because the stamina mitigation very weak, just like my gains. Overall, F tier for both PvP and PvE, just doesn't have enough value. You get this from killing these mammoths, so there you go. Time to slaughter a herd. Make some wool coats while you're at it. Life Ateka. This one, beautiful. Your range attacks inflict disintegrate for 8 seconds on both weapons. 1 second cooldown. If your dex is higher, It will scale. Replace your base scaling with dexterity. It comes with keen, life-stealing, and refreshing, turning this into a perfect offhand weapon if you like going max damage with musket. Overall, S tier in my opinion, as you just can't get a better deal for pure damage stacking for musket rats out there for PvE and PvP. Very frustrating to fight this in OPR. I hate it and I want it removed. Where do you grab this monstrosity? Over here. You gotta do a bit of parkour to get up on top, but I believe in you. You got the moves like dagger. Loss, stoop, wooch. Taunts are active, generate 3%. Taunts generate 300% more threat. Stuns 1%, 1 second longer, but the base damage is increased by 10%. This thing, I think it's pretty mid, D tier across the board. Some situational uses in PvP for extra long CC durations, aka war, but most people aren't going to enjoy this. And for PvE, you don't need the extra taunt to usually pull bosses if you know what you're doing. It's just better artifacts out there, in my opinion. Commander Thorpe's in the Depths Mutation dungeon, so it's time to go kill our homie. Gilly's Gravity Gauntlets. Whenever you take damage, gain an empowerment charge that increases the damage of your next attack by 2%, all the way up to 20%. Now that's a lot of damage. Too bad you gotta get beaten down until you're nothing but a puddle of rotten bones and depression. Honestly, I give this F tier on both categories. Completely and utterly irrelevant. Avarice, right here in the arena. Enter the Thunderdome, come out with something useless. Nature's Wrath. It's time to love Mother Nature or hate it, depending on how you vibe. Limited durations and power expire instantly, and durationless empowers potencies is reduced by 50%. You always deal 20% more base damage. This would be very strong if empowerment was weaker than base damage, but sadly it's just not. F tier for both PvE and PvP, simply because empowers are broken beyond belief, and not having them can significantly reduce your damage across both game modes, PvE and PvP. That's why it gets such a low ranking. Farm it from this guy in the arena in Eden Grove. I believe you gotta go cut down a tree, boy, so bring your axe. It's time to go wood cutting. Timber! Onto Echo Knight. Deal 15% more damage to poison enemies. This affects both weapons. Charge attacks cause poison damage, dealing 5% weapon damage for 10 seconds. This one is actually pretty good, as if you can able to have a solid poison build, I can definitely see this rising up all the way up to B tier for both PvE and PvE goblins, just for some cheeky poison attacks. The only major problem is charge heavies are not ideal for overall PvE DPS, and for PvP it's hard to hit those as they're very telegraphed. But hey, if you want a poison build, this one could be fun to try. Overall though, B tier. Where do you grab this bad boy? You gotta farm an elite right here on the map in Reekwater. The Shrapnel. Headshots on enemies cause 10% bleed for 6 seconds. Let's just skip this one, boys. It's terrible. F tier. Get it from OPR caches. On to the next. The Burninator. The once most broken artifact in all of New World Eternum. Now gone down to ash. Ironic. All fire staff skills and heavy attacks deal 33% less damage but cause 10% burning for 5 seconds. It's just not that good anymore. D tier for both PvE and PvE. Just way better options for more damage. Who wouldn't want 15% extra damage from something like Infernal? Or the Burninator? Well, it makes your skills hit like wet noodles. I don't want that. It's like nerfing yourself. Playing the game on hard mode if you're into that. Leviathan of the Deep in Mirkgard, so the big boy boss at the top of the run. Next up we got the Rapier Brothers. Lava Tip, heavy melee attacks on both weapons cause 10% burning for 6 seconds. Honestly, I give this one an D tier simply because there's just way better options out there. Simply does not deal enough damage, and heavy attacks are just not viable in a lot of situations, especially for a Rapier Rat player. I'd recommend avoiding this one for both PvP and PvE, but hey, if you want to go farm it, these are the bosses, the enemies you can farm. Looks like you got a wild ride to go on. Fracture. It's time to break people apart. Overfull Essence heals you for 100% more health, and Essence Rupture does 50% more damage on hit. Refreshing and Keen, both actually pretty solid perks for Void Gallant. For PvP though, I can't give it a high spot, F tier. For PvE, I can see it a bit higher, C tier, I'll grab it. Where do you grab this? Gotta win. Oh, drops from level 65 breaches. So get out there and farm, boys. Power Stone. If health is above 90%, attacks cause weaken by 20% for 5 seconds. Cooldown on each target works on both weapons. Refreshing move and enchanted. For PvE, for obvious reasons, F tier. Most mobs are going to be under 90% HP for 90% of the fight. But for PvP, it does have a lot of value as you start the fight when everyone's at 100%, and most people don't live more than 10 to 15 seconds. I'll give this a solid A tier, as you have a huge window to burst them down as they'll be hitting you like a wet paper towel. You can grab this bad boy through Soul Trials. That's a rare one, boys. Next, Chaos. It's time to watch the world burn. Blast Shot has 170% push distance and will ignite the first target hit, turning them into a projectile, causing 70% weapon damage to all players they pass through. This is the thing that you see when everyone yeets across the battlefield into a different dimension. For PvE, obvious reasons, F tier. You grab it from the OPR cache, by the way, so back to OPR grinding. For PvP, I give it a solid, yet firm C tier, simply because, well, if you want to push boys into the chasm, this weapon can definitely do that on CTM, but besides that, it's pretty much useless. When you receive lethal damage, avoid death, and regain 100% of your max health, then become inflicted with vengeance, reduce healing by 200%, and taking damage equals to 20% of your max health every second until you eventually pass into dust. I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. I give this thing F tier across the board for obvious reasons. You have to die to even make this thing useful, and most of the time you will die before you can get the passive off. Here is the location. The Hammer of Yeetus Greaves. 300% push distance, 10% base damage to all Warhammer knockbacks. Clear ignites the first target hit, turning them into a projectile, causing 100% weapon damage as they pass through their targets. Get Sundering Clear, very good perk. Alternating Enchantment, also very good perk. And Plague Strikes, very solid. No gem slots, so sad and depressing. I would give this thing a solid C tier, just like the Blunderbuss, only really useful to knock people out of the map for some funsy times. For PvE, for obvious reasons, F tier, not going to be doing any of that. You get this from OPR caches. What a beautiful way to end out our video. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and while you're at it, become a YouTube channel member or Twitch subscriber. Support the stream. Become one of the Brotherhood of Gremlins. We got a cool badge for you. You can make me do whatever you want, and I'll even give you special Papa treatment. Join now, and it's gonna be a blast in Season 10 as we rise to the occasion. Thank you guys for all the channel members who've already joined the Horde.